Hi, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. And I wanted to make a short video in advance of your first major deliverable coming in this week on what I'm going to call fluffies and opportunities. Most of you by now are getting to the point where you have some flash fictions set up and you've maybe worked on them a little bit. And now is the hard and rewarding work of revision. So this is just a little bit of information on revision and how I like to think about revision with an example at the end. Should be about 4 minutes. What's really important here is that you start thinking about revision not as something that happens, with 1% left in your thing, but that really revision comes into play very early in your writing process. You write a first draft that's kind of a barf draft. The rest is revision. Many people, especially beginning writers, sort of loathe revision. They think that the magic lightning bolt of inspiration is everything that it takes, and after that, it's no fun anymore. And then what happens is that you wind up not really making your pieces as nice or as powerful as you can be because you're just not spending the time doing the kinds of refinements that are necessary. It's just pretty much impossible that something springs out of your head and is already perfect. So, get over that if you can. So, one way to think about revision is not just that it's part of the process, meaning, a large part of the time of your process, but that that's creative process. It's just as creative as the initial writing. Sometimes we think that revision is just like line editing. We cross our I's and we dot our T's and there's a typo and we're done. That is not revision. So, what I want to do here is just encourage you to think about revision as a creative process that allows you to see what the possibilities are in your story or your text, and that you take the time to really make those as living as you can. So, what is a fluffy? A fluffy is a term totally made up by me. I think about like cotton clouds or something like that. I think about gauze, something that wraps around your pieces that makes it less powerful and less successful because it's just not really doing anything except providing padding. This is not a technical term. No teacher will use it. It is not technical, but it does get at the sense that if I say something's got fluffies, I don't, I'm not meaning it with the dreaded red pen. I'm meaning it as a place that you can turn into something amazing. When I say fluffy, what do I mean? It's just language that isn't doing any positive work. Especially in flash fiction where you just can't waste any words. Fluffies are things that take up space but don't really do much. But here it's when I say don't do much, it's not just about like what's on point for the plot. I mean, are all the words doing the maximum kinds of things for plot and character and theme and tone and the ways the narrator is speaking? So it's not just that something is off the plot a little bit, although that may be part of it. It may not be part of it. Your piece may be about digressions. So fluffies just mean stuff that is doing zero, negative, or little work. What are examples of fluffies? Unnecessary words, filler, things that are redundant because you've already shown me and then you're telling me to kind of resync it in. Abstractions, cliches, those are all fluffies. They're just stuff that maybe is giving me an understanding of what's going on, but isn't really giving me an emotional or an intellectual or a real jolt in the piece and can be improved. So the key here is to convert your fluffies into opportunities. Fluffies aren't things that are wrong, but they're placeholders, they're scaffolds, they're opportunities for you to tighten the piece, to get rid of things that are doing nothing, to replace them with something that is doing a lot, to use more vivid language, a more precise phrase, an image that has, legs to it in a certain way. By seeing revision as opportunity, we create all kinds of new creative possibilities, including ideas for next pieces, right? You might build a hook that you're going to turn into a whole nother piece somewhere. I was just talking to somebody who was talking about the film Heathers, and then there's the idea that maybe one of the pieces in their portfolio is this character responding to the first time they saw Heathers. So thinking about opportunities, we're not just cutting things with the pen, we're creating new trains of thought, we're linking ideas. We're finding a more specific or a telling image, we're eliminating cliches, and we're replacing things with specific language. So that's fluffies and opportunities. Here's an example from one of your works. This is the first paragraph of a flash fiction, and I just want to point out some things in bold here. Notice that This whole front end is actually a little bit unnecessary. Why? Because when I was little, it builds in the trope of stories that say when I was young, and B, more importantly, we get that they're young by the details. Wooden spoon stirring in stuff in the washing machine, dad helping you up on top of the dryer. This is a little kid because a dad is not going to help an adult on top of the dryer. And pretending to make soup in the washing machine isn't really that important because we get that it's pretending. So all of those things actually make a really good idea, making soup in the washing machine, sort of fluffied out because the first 10 words aren't doing a lot of work. So think here, isolate the things that aren't doing work and replace and make it catchy and sharp without losing anything. I used to make soup in the washing machine. This also gives us the mystery of like, is it real, is it not? And that gets solved. So that's, one thing. I'm looking at the word stool because it's a great opportunity to be a little more specific for this child to feel the stool that they had as a child. For they to know that it was a specific color red, that it had splinters, that they weren't allowed to stand on it. So stool is fine, it's better than chair, but this is an opportunity to really make us inhabit this world, right? Moving on, the same thing with cigarette. He'd have a cigarette. Is there something that we remember about this father's moment, the way they held the cigarette, the way that they tapped it out, what this child thought of the cigarette, whether it was magic. This is another opportunity without doing too much, 4 or 5 words, be more specific. Notice that when I got a little older tells us, again, the childhood thing here. It renders it unnecessary. Notice here that it was the same process of the laundry soup actually isn't doing any work. Why? 2 reasons. One, we assume, unless you tell me otherwise, that making real soup is the same as making fake soup because we don't have any information to contrast with that. So if it's really important that's the same process, then give me another detail about how the soup is being made. Otherwise, this isn't doing anything. It's assumed because we're reading in order that there is a parallelism between this soup and that soup. Once again, this is a 60-word passage, and this is 10 words that is doing nothing, right? It was my favorite thing to make. I love it. Lastly, spices. This is another really good opportunity to talk about what spices, or if the spices were in the pantry. That gives us class information, it gives us cultural information, and it gives us something to work with in terms of sound and poetry. There's a lot of lovely stuff in this piece. I love that canned soup kind of sucks on its own. I love the precision and the kind of sparseness of this. What I'm looking for is for you to see the fluffies and eliminate them to make it sharper, and then in a sort of counterbalance to go 1 or 2 levels deeper into detail at key moments. So this is how we convert fluffies into opportunities. We isolate the stuff that isn't doing a lot or is redundant or is old language, and we make it new or we make it sharp. All right, that's it. I hope that you watch this and sort of keep it in your mind as you're doing your revisions for Thursday. And I hope that you continue to think about the process of revision as something that is as important or more important than the process of creation itself, and that this is the part where you turn a good piece or a good idea into something brilliant. All right, have a good day, everybody.